Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're tackling a claim that keeps popping up whenever a movie underperforms. Get woke, go broke. It's been thrown at Ballerina and Furiosa, two spin-offs of male-led franchises, John Wick and Mad Max respectively. But is that really why they struggled? Spoiler alert, no. And today, I'm going to break down the real and overlooked reasons behind their box office performance. Get woke, go broke has become an easy scapegoat for any movie that fails, even when its themes have nothing to do with political messaging. It started as a critique of forced political narratives, but now, it's a lazy explanation for box office disappointments, regardless of the actual film content. Movies bomb for many reasons. Bad marketing, franchise fatigue, weak execution, audience disconnect, or even simply bad timing. But rather than examining these factors, people jump to, it failed because it was woke! Wah! Take the Marvels. Yes, superhero fatigue was setting in, but its failure wasn't just about audiences rejecting female superheroes. A major issue was that it functioned as a sequel to 3 different Disney Plus shows: WandaVision, Ms. Marvel, and Secret Invasion, meaning casual moviegoers who hadn't kept up with Marvel streaming content were left in the dark. That's a franchise misstep, not a political one. Similarly, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny had struggles beyond its supposed quote-unquote wokeness. A key factor? Harrison Ford was in his 80s starring in an action movie. While Ford is an iconic actor, audiences weren't convinced that an aging indie was what they wanted. Couple that with lukewarm franchise momentum and marketing that didn't excite audiences, and its underperformance was far more about execution than ideology. And if Get Woke, Go Broke was really the driving force behind a movie's failure, then why didn't it dominate the discourse around Shazam! Fury of the Gods and Blue Beetle? Both movies flopped. Shazam brought in $30.1 million opening weekend, well below expectations, and Blue Beetle opened with just $25 million. Yet, Shazam! Fury of the Gods prominently featured Atlas's daughters, introducing powerful female characters into the superhero world, while Blue Beetle was led by a Mexican protagonist. Something that could have been framed as quote-unquote woke if people wanted an easy narrative. But the backlash just simply wasn't there. Why? Because audiences recognize the real issues: weak marketing, lack of buzz, and diminishing interest in the DCEU overall. The truth is, most audience members don't care about political discourse. They care if a movie looks good, is exciting, and worth their money. Let's look at the numbers. Ballerina opened to $25 million, below expectations for a John Wick spinoff. Furiosa had an even rougher start, pulling in $26.3 million over its opening weekend. But here's the kicker. These numbers aren't drastically different from other spin-offs that struggled, regardless of gender. Solo: A Star Wars Story opened to $84.7 million in 3 days, $103 million over the 4-day Memorial Day weekend, and it was still considered a flop. The Huntsman: Winter's War opened to $19.4 million, despite being a follow-up to Snow White and the Huntsman. These movies didn't fail because of quote-unquote wokeness. They failed because audiences weren't convinced they were essential. Spin-offs are notoriously tricky. Audiences love familiar characters, but they don't always show up for side stories. Ballerina and Furiosa both lack their franchise's biggest draw: John Wick and Mad Max respectively. John Wick fans came for Wick, not a side character introduced briefly in Chapter 3. Mad Max fans wanted Max, not a prequel about Furiosa's origins. This is a critical factor. When the primary appeal of a franchise is missing, audiences are hesitant. Even the most well-made spin-offs struggle when they remove the central figure that defines the brand. Look at Solo: A Star Wars Story. A Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford was always going to be an uphill battle. Similarly, The Huntsman: Winter's War tried to continue Snow White and the Huntsman, but without Snow White. If the audience doesn't feel they're getting what they loved about the original, they often just check out. Here's where things get even messier. Neither Ballerina nor Furiosa were allowed to stand on their own merits. Both were marketed as From the World of John Wick and From the World of Mad Max respectively, signaling to audiences that these weren't full-fledged entries, just side stories. Compare that to Creed, which was marketed as a new chapter in the Rocky legacy, or Logan, which was framed as a must-see conclusion to Wolverine's story. Those films felt essential. They weren't just tangential additions. They closed arcs, introduced new stakes, and evolved their franchises. Meanwhile, Ballerina felt like a side mission rather than a pivotal John Wick event, and Furiosa was missing the high-octane urgency that made Mad Max Fury Road such a massive success. This lack of urgency, combined with the marketing angle focusing on their franchise connections rather than their own stories, made these films feel optional rather than must-see. The claim that audiences don't want female-led action movies doesn't hold water when thoughtfully examined. History proves otherwise. Just look at Resident Evil and Underworld, both franchise starters led by female protagonists that spawned multiple sequels. Angelina Jolie's Tomb Raider movies were box office hits, showing early 2000s audiences were eager for a strong female lead in action-heavy roles. Even further back, Sigourney Weaver's Ripley in Alien defined female-led sci-fi action, with the first 4 Alien movies finding box office success. More recently, the Hunger Games franchise with Jennifer Lawrence's Katniss became a phenomenon, proving audiences have no problem embracing female-led action when the story and execution are strong. And let's not forget modern female-led action movies that have thrived. Atomic Blonde, led by Charlize Theron, delivered sleek, stylish action and was a box office success. Alita Battle Angel, though underestimated, still performed well globally and found a strong audience post-theatrical release. The issue isn't gender, it's how the movie is presented. If a film doesn't feel essential to its franchise, audiences won't rush to see it. Ballerina and Furiosa weren't framed as must-watch entries. They were treated as side stories, and audiences responded accordingly. So, did Ballerina and Furiosa bomb because they were quote-unquote woke? No. They struggled because of spin-off fatigue, weak marketing, and audience expectations. Blaming wokeness ignores the real reasons these movies didn't connect. If Hollywood wants spin-offs to succeed, they need to make them must-see events, not just side stories. What do you think? Were Ballerina and Furiosa doomed from the start, or could they have been saved with better marketing? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into storytelling and box office trends.